Good afternoon. We'll just wait for 3 minutes. I hope I'm audible. We'll just wait for a few people to join in and then we will begin the session.
Hello, Shorby.
Okay, hi everyone. I know for those of you whose mics are muted, thank you for joining us this afternoon. We are a big group right now. We are about 60 people. And so we will take this ahead as smoothly as possible. Now, right now, all your mics are muted. Only the speakers will be speaking for a bit. There is an option for you to raise your hand if there is something important that you need to bring up during the Q&A session. This session will last for about 1.5 hours. And there is a chat option. So even while this is going on, you can use the chat option to record your questions, and we will take some of those questions at the end of the session. Maybe around 30 minutes before the session is to close, we will start taking questions, so there will be enough time for us to do the Q&A. I am Shrobi. For those of you who don't know me or haven't met me, I am from Pebble Creek Isranagar branch, and I thank you for being here with us today. We have two speakers who are also with us, who will be addressing all of us. The first is Moiza Rafat. She is the founder director of Pebble Creek Schools. And we have also with us Mrs. Helen Mohan Elias. Some of you may know her. She is from the Montessori Training and Research Trust. She's also the director of Education Sans Frontières, which means Education Without Borders. It's an organization run by Association Montessori International from Netherlands. So she's the director for ESF India, and she will be also, speaking to us. So basically, today's session is about these times that we are going through. We have not been through this time ever, maybe, and different concerns arise in each of our minds. Some of us are thinking, what's happening with children's education and how to engage them, and some of us are thinking, do we really need to engage them, or we should just let them be happy, and that should be the the topmost motive for all of us, the topmost priority for all of us. So some of you have given some suggestions for sessions and particular questions. Throughout this meeting, we will be able to cover a few of them, and in the Q&A round, we will take up more. And this being the first session, we will plan for the next few sessions based on everything that comes out from here and some other questions that are important and need to be addressed. So I will not take any more time. I will request Moiza to take over and address us.
You home, and I'm in your place and you're in my place. And today's session, of course, is driven by all the concern and everything that's happening around us. And we needed time to think through whatever we are facing today as a human race. And definitely it has had a huge impact on children, education, and on lives in general. And one way is to panic about it, another way is to plan for it, to come to terms with it and accept, and still find a way forward. And our attempt to meet now is after having given thought to what's going on, what feels right, and which is the right way to go, rather than just rushing into things. And so we so I would, as we have given it the title, Driving Learning Through Families, families are going to play a big role in this entire pandemic that we are facing, whether it's health, whether it's learning, whether it's whatever we're doing, everything, we have to stand together as a family, and families are becoming the strongest unit as support, which we all are experiencing, whether it's household work or whether it's learning of children or whether working from home. Families have to drive a lot of things, and children's education is no different. And we need to understand the power of this social unit, how it impacts, each family today. To begin with, I will show you now all the questions that we have received through the Google form that you all signed up. I have not edited it, nothing, it is as is. So it will give us an idea that where every parent is, every parent's expectation is so different, their needs are so different, because they're facing this pandemic in a different way. And I'm sure some of you would have seen on social media that we are going through the same time, but our times are still different. We're experiencing things differently because, our reality, our circumstances, our situations, our families are different. And to begin with, I would like to just go through the questions. We'll just take maybe some time to go over the questions and concerns that parents have. How to inculcate a hobby in my child. How to keep children engaged in learning in creative and fun-filled method. They should not feel that we are continuously pestering them to study during so-called holidays for them. School schedule for online syllabus for grade 1, and how can we cover missed school days through online sessions for children. Simple teaching methods. How to continue development of autistic children during the lockdown and in summer vacation. Sessions on how to engage kids during times when parents aren't with them. Age-appropriate syllabus should be mentioned so that basic concept could be taught. Montessori methods to teach the syllabus. Is it required to take a textbook and teach during this time? How to engage children. how to engage our children. I need to just, only academics would not do justice. Whatever, I can't see some part of the screen because the images are, wait a minute. Okay, I'm sure you can see that those questions. Keep reading. I'm not able to read part of it because your videos are blocking it. Here there is something that, you know, face-to-face interaction, personal interaction with teachers and friends is very important, and we are not satisfied with the online interaction. How to make children self-motivated and keep them away from gadgets. Need help in physical activities as children are not able to go out. How to engage healthy relation between siblings. How do we take care of child progression? I feel it is the development and the curriculum. Some sessions to help children, you know, do their homework. How to manage children's mood swings, and how to get them to learning for at least 15 to 30 minutes in a day. What should be the backup plan for missing classes? So these are some of the questions that, you know, many of you had, and we have put them as is. Whatever I received till this afternoon are there. If I miss some, they must be hovering around these topics. And do we have a clear-cut answer? Can I say, yes, this is the way to go, and yes, no, that is not the way to go? Obviously, no, nobody knows really the answers, but we have to figure out a way forward, and that is our effort. Many of the points, in fact, most of the points that are raised by the parents are valid. They are real concerns. We cannot negate, and they are something that we have to consider and look at and find a way forward. When we began, when the lockdown was announced in mid-March, we really operated from the belief that, you know, one minute. Yeah, we operated from the belief that it is only for March and April, and that it is a temporary phase, and we had to do some kind of stopgap arrangement, and we just wanted to use this online platform to just connect with children and to stay visible to our children, because it was so sudden and so abrupt that the year ended and we could never start it again. And obviously it must have led to a lot of questions in the minds of children. And the idea of getting back to very young children and the elementary was largely to have a face-to-face interaction. But this wasn't simple. It had its own challenges, because we did not go into a lockdown with a plan, and we are not technology people per se. We are not prepared like that. We hardly use technology to reach out to parents, and this was the first time for many parents, many teachers. So teachers, the challenges that we faced were that teachers did not have the high-speed internet through which they could connect. Some of them were having network connection issues through which they were not even able to connect over phone. So downloading a simple document was a challenge, leave alone going online on, you know, something like Zoom or any other online platform for face-to-face interaction. And some of the teachers did not have gadgets. Even if they had gadgets, they had children who had to attend to their online classes. They were in senior grades, and parents were working from home. And besides this, attending to the household chores, which we, or none of us have been able to escape that. So these have been our real challenges, and this may have impacted especially the primary Montessori children, because those teachers did really face a bit of an issue connecting online. So that was the reality behind the scene. Now, of course, around the country, around the globe, we are hearing about all the online classes and, you know, what's going on. All schools have gone on an overdrive, and many of the Montessori school parents will start feeling, you know, our children missing out on something because all other schools are doing so much of online interaction. Is my child missing out on something? Is there something, you know, that I wish our school does. As ironical as it gets, my daughter is also in another school, and she has been having online classes from morning till evening. And as I can see, she's in her 12th grade. It's been a one-sided session from morning till afternoon, back to back. I don't know what is going on. They have finished, I don't know how many, 7 lessons in these 2 months, because it's just a one-way traffic. So the teacher goes on and the assignments are sent, and you keep working, keep working, keep working. But there is no interest, there is no engagement of the child really. You're getting work done. I mean, as per a plan from a school, yes, I have offered that lesson, but has learning taken place is a question. And there is enough research that is supporting this view that, you know, online sessions may not be, only online session may not be the answer. We have to find some better way, a more complete way of interacting with the children. We need to continuously work on how happy children are during these difficult times. Now we know that the lockdowns are here for long, and they're not going to go away very soon, and we need to now plan. But we need to plan, not panic. We must not do anything in haste. We have to think through, and we have to get this absolutely right for our children. You may want something as parents, and we may want to do something as schools, but we cannot go wrong for children, that's for sure. And that's where our collective thoughts should be. We cannot push children over the cliff now and say, this is it, you learn online now. So far child has been engaged in, you know, manipulating things with hand, to think, to construct his or her learning. And there was so much engagement of the mind and body, and, you know, emotions and social interaction. Everything was there, part of one lesson. Nothing was taught where a teacher stood and imparted the lesson. Nothing was taught like that so far. And now we say you will be taught online is far more unsettling than missing the school part. So the risk of going completely online with a very young child is extremely, it's not worth, we can't afford that, the negative impact of that. And also we've done some work already. Your child has been, at least for, you know, most of the parents, 2 years, 3 years, whatever time has been invested, we have put your children on some path of self-learning. And whatever work we have done so far cannot be undone. We have to continue, and we have to support through these times for as long as it lasts. Whatever time it lasts, we have to continue this kind of work. Of course, no one knows the duration, but we cannot let go of what children already know through their experiences. We cannot undermine, we cannot disregard, and we cannot say it didn't exist. Disregard that, and now let's do something totally new. We cannot do that. One thing, let us all come to terms with, this is a temporary phase. We will get over it, and we will get children back on the learning curve. That's for sure. Because not because I will put them on the learning curve. They will follow their human tendency. When the time changes, they will adapt to that time also. And we need to just offer now what is relevant for them, what is right for them, which is true help for them. We cannot offer anything just for the sake of offering and appearing that we're doing something in terms of their learning. We cannot do that. Definitely, we cannot teach children virtually. That's a fact we need to understand. It is not at all developmental in nature. We have to sail through this time, not succumb to it. We have to prepare for the future without ignoring the true nature of the child. Of course, with this time, our approach has to change. But our core principles of Montessori approach and what is right for children should never be forgotten and cannot be ignored and cannot be brushed aside right now. We know that as a reality, you know it as parents, we know as educators, we know as a human race that the intellect can be fed only through one's senses. And this is something that no one can change. This is a fact, it's a given. So whatever we do, we have to keep this in mind and offer whatever we do at home or at school, whatever we do. Luckily for us, luckily for you as parent, and luckily for the children of Pebble Creek or any other Montessori school in any part of the world, the school was designed to look like a home. It is called the Montessori House of Children. So everything that was there in the school was to give the child the comfort of home. And that's how the environments are prepared, as you have all seen, and that's how they operated. That's how children function in the school. Now, what needs to happen is that the school, which we were trying to create based on the home environment, we need to figure out a way of making the school shift into the home environment. We need to look at homeschooling as an option. Now, homeschooling is not everybody's cup of tea. I know parents, some are inclined, some people are not only inclined, you need a certain skill and certain level of patience to work with children. And working with your own children, you need more patience, because you tend to lose your patience, because the ownership that you feel over your children, you will lose your patience much faster than, in comparison to the patience that you would show to children, other parents' children, that you have more patience for that. So a teacher will have far much more patience in comparison to a mother or a father. So, so we need to really look at this model of working on creating a homeschool, where the school needs to design everyday's work for parents and offer the relevant and required resources, whether it's print, whether it's setup of material, whether it's orienting the parents or talking to parents and visiting homes, or parents visiting school, whichever model works post, once the lockdown is up and whatever new guidelines are offered by the government, we have to abide by that. But whatever is possible within that framework, I see homeschooling till such time that that it really opens up, everything opens up, is the option for our very young learners. And maybe the primary school, we don't know, we really don't know, but depending on how the situation pans out for the whole nation and for our city in particular. So we need to plan, and which we are designing, and we are looking at how we can create a curriculum that can be followed at home, based on the principles that we are following in the school. So there should not be a stark difference between what children have experienced so far to something totally opposing and unsettling for the child. So we will work on that. We will also create an online interface, and once the lockdown is a little relaxed, maybe teachers will be able to come to school in turns and then log in and connect with parents and children. Hopefully, we're just hoping for those positive situations where things open up a little bit. Now, as I have spoken about this, I would like to also help you see what really a classroom looked like. You all have seen it, but maybe all this lockdown has made you, maybe it's a far off memory now, like how the classroom looks. Let's look at it. It will be very reassuring that this is something that can be done. It is possible by every parent in every. Some parents may need some extra support, and we will create that support. We will create the design, we'll create the support, we'll create the resource that is needed. So let's look at some of the glimpses of a typical day in, it's on no special preparation, nothing. This is how a classroom looks. This is the work of children. There is pouring, there is looking at insects, there's some work with stamps and some materials, which are very easy to recreate if we want to, but we don't want to create every single material that is there. We will do what is possible by parents in their homes, preparing, what can be prepared easily and what is relevant. We will not go on an overdrive with, academic content has to be done. No, because learning for a young child, as long as number sense is there in the mind, as long as vocabulary and language is being built, it is enough preparation to take on any work that is going to come in the next couple of months. This is how this is what is help offered, where there's an educator, an adult, and a child. Talk to the child one-on-one and leave them to explore things the way they are. So children need activities to stay motivated, engaged, and involved. So if you think a worksheet is going to engage the child for the whole day, it doesn't. it becomes the parents' agenda to finish, but it is never an engaging thing. But yes, we will send, I mean, we will do that, because even we want some kind of academic progress, we will design something that is friendly, something that the children will enjoy doing. Yet there is always a rider with those worksheets that don't force your children into doing it. That's always a rider that comes along with every single worksheet. We will also share something like a learning plan, which will, that's a big topic, and we shall share it where it will be like what a 2.5-year-old is expected to do, and those kind of, which will be a printed document with all the resources and everything we're working on it, which will be shared by with parents very soon. Now, some of the parents said, how to get children to, support and help and no mood swings and all of those things. So if this is the equation, this is the power equation between any adult and the child, whether it's home or school, whether it's one moment in a day or several moments in a day, this is not going to work even in this situation. So if you're thinking power is going to help you control children better, it's not going to work. It's only going to be a collaborative approach where at this level you work. And you see, I don't know whether you can see my cursor, but this is the level at which we need to work. And this is how we need to work. I'm sorry that I'm using a very, very foreign picture here. On the internet, this was more easily available, but this is the scenario in every household today. And this is a great learning platform. You don't know how much children are learning through this. And in fact, you should ask your children about, what have you learned in the last one day, if they've been helping out. I won't say anything about children who have not been contributing to household work. If they have not already been doing, then I urge parents that children have to take responsibility of what's happening at home. This is the best time, best opportunity, and the real need of children at this moment. So this is a 16-year-old learning at home in her own words. If we go by it, I have more respect for the helpers at home for the work they did. I can stay fit just by doing household tasks like drying up clothes, mopping and sweeping, washing dishes, cooking, etc. I learned how to chop vegetables faster. School does not prepare you for this kind of work ever. In the process of reducing our work, we are more mindful of how we use our dishes, how many clothes we wear, because eventually we have to wash and clean them. We became more mindful of the usage of water and food. We started using water used for cleaning vegetables to water the plants. We are so aware of what we have at home. We rotate supplies, first in, first out. No food is getting wasted. Got the time to learn how to draw and sketch. Got some time to pursue my hobbies, piano, ukulele, and singing. Now, these are images of a child who, this is a sibling of one of our students, and she has never been to Pebble Creek, and she's not in any school. She's very young. She is just, I think, less than 3 years old. But from the very young age, she has been involved in household work. So it is not about the age, how old the child is. You can start involving them very, very early on. And I'm happy that I have an image of a child who's not at school, nothing to do with Pebble Creek right now, except the parent has something to do with Pebble Creek. But at home, she is being offered meaningful, relevant engagement of watching plants, even exercising, doing push-ups. Look at this. Look at these visuals. The kind of arrangement the parent has made about having a jockey for the child to be able to stand on this on the level. This is the kind of preparation needed so that children can engage in this kind of activity. This will engage them and also exhaust them adequately to go to sleep after a hard day's work, so they are meaningfully engaged. She's harvesting some red chilies. I'm sure everybody doesn't have the luxury of having a garden like this, but it's just a visual of what is the possibility for us. And so if this is what is happening at home right now, you have a perfect child and a perfect family. So have fun with your children, connect with them. We are working on the academic part, so don't panic, don't worry. We will create the right plan, which is developmentally, emotionally right for your child, and we will connect with you very, very soon. And thank you for your patient listening. And we have with us Helen. Has Helen joined in?
Yes, she's here. She's here.
Okay, so I'd like to welcome Helen. Helen and our association goes a long, long way. Like I did my training with her, and she has grown a lot in terms of connecting with community. Has worked with Anganwadi schools. Connected to the ESF, which is the Educators Sans Frontiers. It's a AMI wing for the outreach program. So really working with troubled communities, not only in India, but she has worked overseas. And I think this is her passion now, to work with communities and families. And I'm very happy that she's been able to join us. And I know that she will never ever refuse any such talk for any school, any part of the world. I'd like to welcome Helen, and over to you, Helen. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Yeah, so thank you, Moiza. Thank you. First of all, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. So thank you. Thank you for that introduction, and thank you for laying all the foundation work by talking to the parents. I'm going to take off from where Moiza left or spoke about. Thank you, parents. So nicely you are sitting and listening. I've been watching all of you, at least the some of you that I can look at. I thought I'll try and see if I can recognize somebody. Anyway, what are we going to do now? Yeah. You know, as Moiza said, I've been talking to parents, talking to communities, just trying to help. Let's first of all understand what are we doing here. We are all, we have met here today, mainly for children, yes, but all of us, everybody, each individual in a home, and all of us have to try and keep ourselves happy. How to do that, and what all should we do so that our main aim just now should be how to be happy. Yeah. So this technology is very new. I'll try my best to have as minimal distraction as possible while I'm manipulating. Let's see what I can do. I have a PowerPoint. I'll try and share it with you. I've been successful, but I can't promise you every time I'll be successful like that. Yeah. Have I shared? Not yet. Huh. Yes. Can you see? Yes. Okay. At least one of you shake your head, you know?
Yes, we can see.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah. So let's. Okay. What is our goal right now? Why this webinar? You know, I thought it is very, very important to orient ourselves, all of us, not just children, all of us just now, to this new normal, because this is here to stay. It's not as if it's come and it's going to go away. None of us don't know anything about it. We don't know the time frame. We don't know the time limits. We don't know anything. But this is the new normal that we all have to accept. The sooner we accept this, the faster we will be able to live a normal life. Otherwise, you know, it's very unsettling to see. We don't know what it's so much of an insecurity. Yeah. So let's orient ourselves to this new normal. And we all know the kind of situation that we are in just now, with lots of restrictions. We have never lived a life with restrictions like this. So just now we have lots of restrictions. Now we all have to think of ways to support children and other members. It's not just children. Again and again, I keep coming back to that. Let's not forget that it's not just children alone that are living. All of us put together, the whole family, if we are able to accept this life, and if we are going to live happily, then it's assured that children are going to be happy and they are going to accept this kind of a lifestyle. So it's for all of us. So we have to think of ways to support children and others at home to live life happily. That's the underlying statement, is live life happily. Any which way all of us can live. But now we are looking at ways to live happily. And it's not alone. You know, earlier When children are at home, parents go to work. When parents come, children sleep. When children are gone out, their grandparents had their share of whatever work they did. Everybody had their own timings, so it suited us well. But now it's not like that. We all have to try and live happily while coexisting with other members of the family. I mean, the wordings are all simple. I don't have to go over it again. So this is our aim, and this is what we are looking at. So rest of the slides, rest of my discussion is going to help us achieve all these goals. Yeah. So I've kind of prepared a guideline. These will be our guiding principles, which will help us play our role, help us achieve our goals. Okay. So observe and understand children. I'm going to go over each of it. I put it as one separate slide so that this plays on your mind always. You should, these guiding principles, should, the word says guiding principles, that will guide us in playing our role so that we all live happily. Yeah. So observe and understand, reflect, plan, modify, implement the plan. I'm going to go over each of it. Now let's first of all observe and understand the needs of the children, basically. Yeah. So let's look at, and this is a broad view, and we are catering to all the age groups. It's whatever this, just now what I'm going to talk is to cater to all the needs of the children of all age groups. So whatever suits best to you, you should observe these needs of your children in each of your child, and then we'll go over the guiding principles. Okay. So let's look at a newborn. Let us look at children below 2 years. What is their needs? The basic needs. They need to be fed. Their nappies have to be changed, and they have to sleep. They have to have a comfortable corner to sleep. This I'm sure you are doing. I mean, it's basic for a mother to do. So I'm sure you must be doing. Along with that will be love and affection. Actually, children need more love and affection now because the situation demands. There's a lot of insecurity within us, and I'm sure it's passed on to the children. They may not verbalize it, but it is there on them. So I can't say, none of us can say that parents don't love and they don't have affection, but it's important that we demonstrate our love. All the work and activities that we're going to talk about just now will be a means to demonstrate your love to your children. And that's what they need, the younger children. And also they need to be carried, cuddled, hugged, kissed, which is all against the protocol now, but we ought to do all of them, following all the hygiene, mandatory things that protocols we have to follow that, and you have to demonstrate love because those children need it, children below 2 years. And also it's their creative period for movement and language development. So don't restrict their movements. Keep in mind that they need to kick and, that hand and leg movement. So make sure that provision is there for them. And language development, children below 2.5 years, they go through a sensitive period for language. That's their human task. And for that, they are more attracted to human voices. So they need you to talk to them. Just now, we are all disturbed. There's a lot of work. There are a lot of people around, but involve children because we know that's the requirement. All this, what I'm saying, these are the needs of the children. So don't undermine the need of the child below 2.5 years, because all the human functions that are listed below, they are creating all of it. And as support, and you may be observing it. If you haven't, observe them. And let's go over to children, 2.5 year old children, what development they'll be doing. And as Moisa said, whatever work has been done in school is to support these developments. If you see, movement development, language development, and striving for independence, that's one of the development of the 2.5 year old child below 6 years. And another task that they have is to adapt to the time, place, and situation that they belong to just now. this was exactly, these 4 points were exactly what was happening in school. You know, just now they are at home, but if they had gone to school, these are the needs of the child. So let's look at how these, how we can support them at home to develop these. And yeah, so broadly, 0 to 6 years is physical development. So your whole focus, your whole idea of supporting children below 6 years should be on a physical development. All out, you should think of ways, create opportunities for children to develop physically, because that phase, you know, the whole plane is meant for physical development. And we also in schools will only look at, not only, our main focus will be around physical development, and also physical independence. And so this will be the need of the child. If your children are below 6 years, you have to focus on your observation and your understanding of their needs should be around physical development. And children below, children around between 6 and 12 is intellectual development and intellectual independence. So you should understand the needs of this 6 to 12-year-old, of supporting them with intellectual activities along with the other activities. I'll touch upon that later. Along with the other activities, the main need and the main purpose, the main task of this child is intellectual development and subsequently intellectual independence. Then children between 12 and 18 is emotional development. I've heard parents, I've been talking to parents, it's so typical that children get, the children below 6 years get to task very quickly, you know, the daily work, very happily they are running around and doing sweeping, mopping, cooking, supporting mother, you know, all that they're doing very happily. But children 6 to 12 years, they have loads of questions of why this, what is this virus, from where did it come, I mean, what's about all those things. They want to know more about it intellectually. And the 12 to 18 years children, at least from 4 parents I heard of children, they are very upset, they are sad, they are crying most of the time. They want to know what's going to happen to the world. Their friends are in other parts of the world, and that place, you know, something very bad is happening, and they're disturbed. You know, these children don't want to know they don't want to have any intellectual understanding of what's happening, and they don't want to involve themselves in any day-to-day activities. You give me food or don't give me food, I'm ready to wear dirty clothes. But the child is very upset. So cater to that child's needs, because this child is going through the emotional development phase. You can't say, look at your 4-year-old, how nicely he's working, and look at your 7-year-old, how much information he has about this coronavirus, and look at you like a small baby, you're crying. No, it's not that. This child has got a challenge of developing his emotions, and it's not as if he doesn't understand. The child has already collected a lot of information. He is intellectually independent. He's trying to become emotionally independent. So just one incident I shared, but you'll have lots more with you. Try and relate. And these are the observations and you need to have, and the understanding of these children. And how about children between 18 to 24? These children are talking about reforms, and they're saying, I think we should do this, and they must be talking about herd immunity and why not do it, and this is not fair, and that's not what we're. These children are physically strong, they are capable of all the physical work, they are intellectually sound, they have, you know, kind of achieved some emotional balance. Now they have to utilize all the 3 of it. This is that period where they want to now contribute wherever possible. Think of creating situations or opportunities for them to utilize all that they have amassed from birth to 18 years. This is the time for them to contribute. They want to see if they can actually implement all that they have learned. So broad understanding of all the children, different age group. And this is one of our guiding principle. First of all, you should understand, observe, understand, and next what? Oh, along with that understanding, I also want to help you understand what is education. That's because, we are all worried. Our children are missing school. How much they must have lost in this 2 months. God knows what all achievements they would have got. Constantly, this is nagging. And every time, anytime I get to speak to some parent, the first thing they said, God knows when they're going to catch up. God knows when they're going to make up. As it is, they are behind. No, aage kitna pada hai ki? When, how will they cope up with the aage, and how will they, fill up the backlog? Please, let's understand what is education. Oh, where did I go? Yeah. Let's try and understand what is education. Education is help for life. So what is life for children in this situation? Just now, each of your child, I don't know what the age group of your children are. Just now, look at life for them in this situation. Let's reflect, observe, understand their need, reflect and plan and support that life, which is nothing but education. So if you support life in this given situation, suitable to their age and need, you are not missing out on education. They are being educated. And what is education? Not reading, writing, just that. Education means learning. Yes, learning happens only through personal experiences. And what are the opportunity? This is the best ever opportunity anybody can get in this world, to learn, to educate oneself. And let's make best use of this opportunity to educate our children, to educate ourselves, and to educate every single member in the family. Actually, I arrived at what is education because of this natural worry of no school. I'm not blaming you, all of us. If we didn't understand the definition of education, all of us will go through this worry of what they will miss out and what will happen to their education. Please keep reminding yourself that education is help for life. Keep relating to it, keep going back to it. Let's keep reminding ourselves to save us from the worry and anxiety. And once you have understood all of that, let's reflect. Another guiding principle. Let's reflect. Reflect based on your observation and the needs. Just now, briefly, I gave you the needs of the child. Let's try and understand each of our children. Let's reflect based on the experiences. Last 3 weeks, you would have lived life with them. So all of you will have loads of experiences. Reflect based on your experiences. Reflect based on any specific situation. I will just quote an example here for the specific situation. As I told you, I heard from a parent. This child was very happily doing, sweeping, mopping, cooking, taking care of plants outside, and neighbors' plants, watering them, and all those things. This child is between 6, is on the verge of going into the third plane, where emotional and intellectual. The intellectual aspect is not completely done, but oscillating once in a while, becoming very emotional. This child started crying very badly. So the mother called me and said, very understanding child. He seemed to be supporting and very cooperative. Suddenly, I don't know, last 2 days he's out. He's not able to eat. So based on this situation, what will we do? What should our plan be? That's why I put this one first for that child. Based on that situation, what should our plan be to orient that child to this COVID, to this virus? What kind of orientation? Very scientific facts, not from the news, not from the WhatsApp. Please don't go by all those. Collect scientific facts. At least start collecting with this child. You have to sit down and understand what this virus is all about. You have to talk to the child from a very scientific point of view, very objective observation. Lot of scientists have posted objective observations of this virus. When you read, actually when you read those observations and the scientific facts, it doesn't worry one. You feel complete control over it. Okay, you understand something. Yeah. And most importantly, positive discussion. Actually, for me as a person, I understood the technique of washing hands. I was wondering, no chemical is going to kill this virus. Why? Then when I read, just this thought, just this understanding that this virus is not a living organism. It needs a host to grow. And the place that this virus will get is only through us. We with our hands, through our mouth, nose and eyes, give them a place to grow. So actually that was liberating for me, because it's under our control. The virus, if it was living, it could have gone by various means. And another thing that, actually I felt very under control when I got to know that this virus has got a covering of, it's a protein fat. And whenever we eat non-veg and when we have greasy hands, what do? It's so logical. We put soap and wash our hands and we wash it away. It's as simple as that, because it's covered with fat, protein fat, and here it needs lot of rubbing and vigor, where you can rupture that and actually dissolve it and not kill it, because it's not alive. You can't kill it, but at least you rupture it, because with soap, the outer covering dissolves. Just small facts was so comforting for me as an adult. Just imagine if such information, if children are oriented to facts and details of technical and practical value, it'll be, child will feel happy. And talk about school closure. Don't give false assurance. For fun's sake, if children don't eat their breakfast, I've heard parents saying, chalo, 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 jaldi ready ho, you have to go to school. Children are already hassled. We are all hassled. We don't have to add on to their misery by, bullying them by saying, chalo, let's go to school. Only if you go to school, you have your bath, otherwise you don't. Or school is going to open in June or in May end or June 1st. What if it doesn't? Because most of the children are looking forward to go to school. Some of them at least want to. They'll be disappointed if they can't go to school. So either ways, don't bully them to send to school, or don't entice them about the date, because we don't know anything. So don't give them false assurance. Introduce the idea of living life one day at a time, because that will be safe, because we too don't know our tomorrow. So it's always better that we focus on today, and you can give our fullest. That way we can give our fullest and do justice to everything that we can do today. And we'll try and do everything today and not postpone things for tomorrow. So, this is a nice, beautiful opportunity for us to instill this idea of living one day at a time, and then accept every situation. Let's not argue. Let's not ask questions of why this, why that. It's always better that we accept situation as they come. And also the work situations, please share. Some of you must be working from home. So give them a timetable of when your work time is, what is your schedule, how long you will work, and why you're working from home. Share with your children. They need to know. And let's talk about the, in our plan, we also have the safety measures, both physical and psychological. I'm sure in this 1 month experience, all of you have become masters in, physical safety. Washing hands, wearing masks, social distancing, what else? Everything, stay at home, no going out, all that you've been practicing. I'm not going to talk about it. I want to talk about psychological safety. Just these are not enough. Please protect your children and yourself and other members in the family from this news. I've heard of families which turn the news, the TV on at 6 o'clock in the morning, and they turn it off only at 12 in the night, as if things are going to change every minute. Please protect yourselves. All of us need to, protect ourselves from anxiety. And it's very disturbing actually. And it's not as if same news, bar, same news again and again and again, in Hindi, in Telugu, in Kannada, in as many languages. I don't know what pleasure they get out of listening to same news again and again. You spoil your mood. Everybody else also spoils their mood. And then it's not a very happy, it's not a very supportive ambience at home, especially home is the only place that we can stay. If there is no safety, then just imagine where are we all going to go. So please think about this news issue, and don't talk about, as it is, WhatsApp in so many groups in many ways comes to us in 100 folds. Same message. If you're in 100 groups, it comes 100 times. And on top of that, just imagine if you're going to sit down and discuss about it in the house. How much of reinforcement we'll be doing? Please, I'm not saying stay away from, completely cut off. Just see if you can enjoy and leave it there. That's not very healthy. It's not very nice for us to go about it. So protect yourselves. So, and I'm sure you all understand and know, and I've also read from various places that, if we are irritated, if we are angry, upset, depressed, fear, if we are scared and fear, all of this can pull our immune system down. So it's important, it's vital, not even important, it's vital that we work on our immune system, not just by taking medicine and good food and taking all that possible. They say, take haldi, take ginger, take this, take that. Any amount of all that will not suffice if you don't take care of your psychological safety. So it is vital, it is mandatory that we ponder upon all these aspects. And psychological safety is intellectual understanding, emotional security, social connection, and spiritual values. All four put together. It's not just don't talk bad, don't listen to news, don't circulate. It's not just that. Be connected socially, gives you a lot of security, emotional balance, and spiritual values. This is the time I've seen all homes are praying extensively, which is a good sign. All four aspects put together is psychological safety. So I've not listed that down here, but keep that in mind and cater to all of it. And that's what will support our immune system, which is very important. So now let's go to our next guiding principle is modify. Our lives have been different all this while, and our homes have been set up differently. Our agenda has been different. Our routine in our day has been different all this while. We cannot change what's happening outside, but we can definitely change our home to bring in peace and happiness. First, let's begin peace and happiness in our homes. We definitely want peace and happiness outside, but we can't bring about that change immediately there, but we can bring about that change at home. So, the next few points that I'm going to just read from here, I'm going to support it later. Let's go over it. Create order and consistent structure. This is a new way of life. Just now, this is a new way of life. Let's accept this new norm and create a order and consistent structure. I'm not listing any structure and order here because each of our homes are different. Each of our lifestyles are different, but definitely we need to have order and structure in our homes. Especially for children below 6 years, it is vital, and also create space at home for this new situation. Children used to go away. Now we are all living together to cater to each one of us, every member of the home. You need to modify and create space at home. And also you have to structure the day with new daily routines. Earlier, children left to school, so only their things were taken care of. Or the father left home early, so only father's things were taken care and others took a sideline. But now, since all of us are at home and all of us are going through the same lifestyle, there should be a new structure to the day and to our daily routines. And, our home should be safe, secure homes with structure and love. With, structure and love will support all of us to live happily. Why I'm saying all this? Some of them have changed homes into either workspaces or changed homes into schools, which is not right. Home is a home, which it has to have structure. Another example is, I heard of a child, some mother called me and said, he used to eat idli dosa properly earlier. Idli dosa, was his favorite. But then now he's crying. He doesn't want to eat this food. You know what's happening? People are waking up very late, 11 o'clock. And then 12 o'clock is breakfast time for the family. So they're giving dosa. Whereas for this child, the biological clock is looking for rice, dal, chawal, roti, or maybe sabji, whatever was the practice. Now this child is not ready for idli dosa. And the child is crying. He doesn't want to eat. He doesn't know why his stomach doesn't want this. He can't verbalize. Again and again, I'm telling you, we are already traumatized. Please don't put children through more trauma. Let's wake up early. It's always better to follow natural laws. Wake up when the sun rises and go to bed when the sun sets. It's dark now. We all have to sleep. Children have been tuned to that. Let's follow that. You have a lot of time in the day to sleep. Let's not wake up early. The earlier you wake up, the fresh you are. And then we have our things to do. We'll go to that. So that's the safe structure of a home I'm talking about. Children are hassled. They're crying without any reason, but the reasons are all this very simple of there's no time schedule, different timings, different kana, when the children are hungry in the morning, the whole house is sleeping, or just one or two of them are up and they're reading newspaper. Everything happens at, we know we have nothing else to do, but children don't know that. They have a fixed timetable and they have a biological clock and we need to follow that. So try and understand. This was what I said, observe your children. If they are hassled, if they are worried, if there is a situation, reflect on why that is happening. Plan and modify. All modification in different ways has to be done, taking into every detail. And after we have modified our homes, our plans, our daily structures, having understood our children, having observed the things that are happening, and we have reflected, now we have to start implementing. I want to talk about positive communication first. Communication is not verbal, not just verbal, but by every means. Let's see. Let's be mindful of what we are talking. We think it's our home, we can talk anything. It's not just for children, even us, even as adults. I can't tell you how it rubs off and then how it can pull your own whole system down if we don't talk. And we can't consciously keep ourselves from talking negative. It's best to make it a habit. We should get into the habit of always thinking and talking only positive things. Why? We may not talk loudly that the children hear, but our mood swings, our irritation, our body language, everything will communicate our moods, and our moods can get disturbed. Not just because consciously you may be aware that you have to think positive and talk positive, but if you're irritated, if you're hurt, if you're unhappy, if you're scared, your immune system, your hormones, your thyroid, everything will go for a toss, and automatically your whole system will function differently. And this is what we will pass on to children. So it's important that we are mindful of what we are thinking and talking. Following protocols. Very, very sincerely and genuinely follow all the hygienic practices. This gives us a sense of security. This is what we communicate to children. A very positive communication. You may not even talk. For us, just for us also, the minute you wash your hand thoroughly with soap, with so much of confidence, I like to rub my eyes. With so much of confidence, I like to take and eat food, and I'm very sure nothing is going into my mouth because I've washed my hands thoroughly. That's what you communicate to children, the sense of security. You feel safe and secure. So follow it with all genuinity. And then some of us mandatorily have to go out to procure things. Very young children may not understand. So you have to verbalize and tell why this one person has to go. And in outside what they do, your very young children may not know. So talk to them about the protocols they follow. By this, you're communicating respect for law. I know of people, I know of parents and families which says, What do they know? What do they know our problem? What we are going through? They are sitting in nice AC rooms and telling things. They're talking and giving law. I mean, let's not discuss about that. Let's communicate to children that this is the law given by our government. Right or wrong, it's none of our business. We have to follow it. This, by doing this, we will communicate to the children how to respect law. And this time, just now, we are all separated, disconnected from people all around, because we are not meeting them in person, but that doesn't mean we are not in touch, because relationships are very, very important. This gives us the sense of oneness, belonging, being wanted, and all these things. So talking to people and staying connected is also very important. So, and while we're talking this, how much of vocabulary, how much enrichment of vocabulary of the new terms that we are giving. I don't think from now to be, earlier we have spoken about lockdown, what else, quarantine, we have heard very sparingly, but then mask, sanitization, so many words, so many new terms that we are picking up, and children know it just like that. You're picking up new vocabulary. So let's talk more positive things and enrich their vocabulary with this. Then get creative and think of ways to communicate to children good values. I'm sure we can get very creative, and I'll talk to you about what creativity actually does. And then we all know necessity is the mother of invention. Just now we are in a need. We are in a situation where there's a lot of necessity for various things. Let's get scientific, and let's become very creative and invent new ways, new lifestyles. So another part of our implementation, another thing that I already spoke about, is activities of daily living. Please do not have a separate timetable for your child. Please make a note of this. We'll be cooking or washing and cleaning, and tell the child, go sit in one corner and write tables now. Or go sit down in one corner and write your handwriting. That spellings, that worksheet that you have to do, go do that. Please, it's not going to work. Don't ever have a separate timetable for a child. Have a common timetable for the whole family. Involve the child. Involve all your children in the daily work. In fact, every member of the home. If it's cooking time, if it's breakfast time, everybody involved, everybody in the house should be involved around that work. Then you can see happily they'll be involved, because that's the timetable of the family. It's not one individual's timetable, as if you're punished, go sit and do this. It's a punishment if you have a separate timetable. I don't think any of us will want to do anything like that. We all want to do what everybody is doing. So please don't have a separate timetable. And each child will contribute to suit his own capacity. If you're making aloo paratha, a 2-year-old can peel the alus. A 4-year-old can mash the aloo. Another older child who's 10, 11, 12, 13, he can bale. An older child can even fry the aloo paratha and serve. Somebody else can set the table. Somebody else can, get water. So each one be involved. So everybody has to be involved to suit their own capacity. And another very important thing I want to talk about, please don't focus on the end result. Kitta acha bele, kitta acha jadu mare, kitta saaf dusting kare, kitta acha mop kare. That's not important. Look at the process. Process is very important. This is the beautiful time that we have got to focus on the process. If they are involved, that's what is important. That's what matters. And also give them their time. Where is the rush now for us? To run and catch a bus, or to run and catch up some schedule, some timetable, there's nothing. So give them their time. Their pace is different from ours. And we also have to develop lots of patience. Only if we develop patience, we can look at the process and give them that time. And not just that, orient all other members of the family to these 3 ideas, that they all have to focus. It's not enough that only the father and mother focuses on the process, but somebody else at home says, "Ye kya jadu laga hai? Pura chatta, 1 year only it is you swept and it's all dirty." It can be disturbing, and this child can just give up this work by one comment. So it's important that you orient other members of the family also to look at the process and to give them the time and develop patience. So I have a list of activities. This is not an exhaustive list. I just made it so that, you can add on to it. First of all of us, when we get up, we do activities around ourselves, which is care of self. So when children are doing this, help them to do it independently. This is the best time, and you're not going to get this time again, to help them become independent with each of these activities. Brushing their teeth, using the toilet, bathing, and selecting clothes. Bring all the clothes. Don't put away new clothes, because anyway they're going to grow out of it. Because by the time they start wearing these clothes outside, they all can become small. So bring all those clothes down, keep it within their reach, so that they select their clothes and make a choice and wear their clothes. And also beautifying oneself. How does it matter if parting is not done, or some strands of hair left, or if they put a bindi here, or put too much of powder, or whatever? How does it matter if they're not beautifying themselves perfectly? Let them do things for themselves. Then comes care of environment. We have dusting, we have sweeping, we have mopping, helping in cooking. Cooking itself is a huge task. Ask me, I can give you list of cooking hassles and the skills that you need to develop for cooking. So, and common sense around cooking. We talk about common sense. It's not enough you have common sense in your workplace and common sense in every other thing. You need to have common sense in cooking also. Otherwise, every meal can be a disaster if you don't have common sense. So all that can be developed now if children are involved. So help in cooking, laying the table, etc., etc. Then care of other members in the home, serving water, supplying food, setting up tables, or bring that, bring this, whatever other members can say, so they can participate in that. And family meals and prayers, it should be part of our timetable in our daily routine for everybody. So the whole family has prayer meals together, and the whole family has prayers together. And I was telling, we have to have a structure and order. Morning we'll get up, do all this work. We would have done care of environment, then we would have tidied our place, then we would have done cooking, then lunch is done. Now what? After lunch to evening, so much time we have, uninterrupted 3 to 4 hours of time. Depending on what time you have your lunch, uninterrupted 3 hours, which is a lot for anybody for that matter. This is the time for you to write, to read, not only children sitting and writing, but for us. How many of us have sat and written? So many of us have, such good skills in us. You don't have to just write or read. You can read stories. So many, lack of time and opportunity, we wouldn't have read so many books, or any skill for that matter, stitching, knitting. If you're interested in cooking, you can write recipes, make a book. So, children below 6 years especially only do things by imitation. They need role models. They copy us exactly. So if you want your child to write a poem, write a story, read a book, or stitch and knit and write, the 4 aspects: movement, language, being independent, adapting to the time, place, and situation. This is the time and place. The child belongs to this part of the situation. He has to adapt to it. Let him adapt to it meaningfully. He's anyway going to do, whether he comes to school or stays at home. Even, in the school, the child would have done this task only of creating his human personalities which is movement, language development, independence, social development, emotional development, all that would have happened. He would have adapted to the time, place, and situation. And memories. Create memories. The child is creating memories. What kind of memories? You know, few years from now, few decades from now, we will not be there around. He will have beautiful stories to share. What kind of stories he's going to share purely lies in us, on us. We have to create those memories. We have to create opportunities. We have to create situations so that the child creates those memories for himself. And we have to, the child's task is also to coexist with love, respect, empathy, sympathy, not just at home. It's not just home, but with the whole universe. So it's important that we don't blame any country, we don't blame any community for whatever is happening, because the child has to have all of this, and he has to coexist with whatever is there, inside and outside. So it again depends on us how we are going to, and this is the task of the child. Any which ways he's going to do, whether you support or don't support, he's anyway going to fulfill all this. The child's task only is that. So now, what is our role? What are we going to do? Our role is to collaborate in this task, in this cosmic task of this child. It is our role, our duty to help in creating memories. And it is our duty and our role to be mindful of their needs and support them appropriately. And it is also our duty to create opportunities for purposeful engagement and involvement in day-to-day activities. Finally, how can we forget this? Yeah, the media, we still stick to this. The children below 6 years should not be exposed to gadgets. From whatever I spoke to you for the last 45 minutes, I've been talking. If we follow that, there won't be time for any of us, leave alone children, even for all of us, to be, stuck up with any of the gadgets. But we definitely have to use technology meaningfully and purposeful activities. And just now I can only think of two. One is maintaining relationships through distance connection, which is vital. Just because we are not meeting and we're telling no gadgets, don't keep your children away from grandparents, uncles, aunts, sibling relationship. That gives us a sense of security and confidence, which is very, very important right now. So stay connected. Make sure that you maintain relationships with everybody. And second thing that you need to use the gadget is mindful viewing of programs where the whole family can sit down and watch. I would like to initiate you with one such program. It's called Different Strokes. It's found on YouTube. There are episodes. There are so many episodes, season 1, season 2, season 3. It will last you for 2-3 years. All that I've spoken so far, it's got beautiful language. Every episode has lots of moral values, lessons, and you can discuss. It'll be very interesting if older children, younger, the old people, elderly, and the whole family can sit down and watch and sit down and discuss why that child behaved like that, what they spoke, so much manners in their behavior, in their language. Lots of language development will happen. I mean, I don't know anybody from this. I'm encouraging you because this was aired during 70s and 80s. And if I watch it now, there's so much connection that I can make with all that I spoke to you. You will enjoy watching this. So what's our takeaway from today's session? Parents remain parents. Suddenly now don't become teachers. Don't make lesson plans. Don't have sheets. Don't have tick off sheets and say, have you done this? Have you done this? Have you done this? You will fail miserably and make a fool of yourself. Please, I'm using some harsh words, hoping that you will take it serious. Parents remain parents. Don't become teachers. And modify your homes into functional homes and not into a school. Yeah, school is a school. Home cannot take the place of a school, nor can school take the place of a home. Let it be a home. And another very important thing, please keep reminding yourself, learning happens only through personal experiences, not through lessons, not through academic textbooks. Learning happens through personal experiences. So parents should create opportunities for personal experiences. This situation will go down in history. Create memories. We decide on the content of their memories. The children's memory, we decide. Stories that they may come out decades from now, it's in our hands. So you decide, your parents, you decide what you want to do. Let us together nurture and support our children to live a peaceful and happy life. Our ultimate goal and aim should be to help children have a peaceful and happy life. Only these two, peaceful and happy. If these two are in place, everything else can sit on it. Any number of worksheets, any number of learning, any number of academics, anything can sit if we are peaceful and happy. So actually, thank you so much for listening. Actually, we are not done yet. I also want to share a message from AMI, which is our governing body, our head office. Maria Montessori's call to humanity, to the whole human race just now, is one of service. This quote beautifully says it. I don't know if you can see, you can read, I will read it. So in the child, just now we spoke about vital, the vital impulse to create himself. We all think, he has to create himself and he has to become perfect. He has to keep repeatedly doing, he has to become perfect. That's one of the purpose. But there must be yet another purpose, a duty to fulfill in harmony. Something he has to do in the service of a united whole. This will be possible only if you follow all that I've been talking about all this while. Positive communication, objective discussion, mindful talk, mindful viewing, protecting, creating good memories, creating opportunities for learning. All that if you do, a sense of security, a sense of belonging, a sense of oneness, a confident, happy, peaceful child will be able to love, respect, empathize, and sympathize other human beings in the world. And then only he will be able to serve a united whole. So are we, Moiza, are we okay, or should I share the video, or just a glimpse of the video? Should I? Yeah.
We can show it a little later, maybe after the Q.
Okay.
Yeah, you do that. Please show. Please show.
Maybe only this I will show,
Yeah,
and
what
happened?
Yeah.
See, this child is up in the morning, ready. You can see the child ready, but I don't know, for some reason volume is not there, but the child is actually humming. She's humming, and you can see the lip movement. She's humming and taking care of the environment. That's the home. She's already had her bath, she's clean, she's set for the day, and she's contributing, and she's actually very happy. For some reason, I'm not able to, the volume is not working. She's humming and happy. Actually, I have also another video of.
Please show that, the roti wala.
Where something happened just now. Yeah, as I told you, I'm sorry, this is new to me. So I find it very difficult to, anyway, I only followed one instruction of putting it in a folder, but I didn't know how to, oh my God, again.
Yeah, good.
See, this is purely imitation. And this is a 3.5-year-old child. And as you're watching, also observe and reflect on what modification does this whole activity need. See, keep watching, observe. The child is imitating the mother and also wanting to rotate. See, she's trying to rotate and it's not happening. So what do you think you'll modify? You'll give a board for the child. Instead of on the paper, if she does it on the board, rest everything she's able to imitate perfectly. It's just that rotation movement she's not able to do. So this is what we need to observe, modify, bring in the board next time, and she'll be able to happily do it. Isn't that beautiful? I don't think we will be able to, yeah, so I think we can take questions. Moisa, thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you so much, Helen. So thank you, parents, for being through with us. It's been an hour. And what we heard Helen talk about is, these are the thoughts that go into setting up a Montessori classroom. This is the way an environment is prepared. These are the factors to be considered while preparing any place, any learning space for anybody. And this particularly spoke about how to prepare a place for a child's learning, which currently happens to be the homes of the children, and the families have to contribute in preparing this environment, keeping the needs of the child. And whatever the guidelines have been given, these are good guidelines. And in this, we bring in the letters, the numbers, the reading and writing, and everything will happen. But this environment needs to be prepared so that learning takes place happily and joyously, with joy. So now I would like Shrobi to lead the Q&A session, because myself and Helen are kind of technologically challenged, and we may create a absolute web of questions right now. So over to Shrobi, please lead the Q&A, and when we need to answer, we will unmute ourselves.
Right. So hi everyone. Now, since there's so many of us in this group, I'd like you to please post your questions on the chat. If you do that, I'll be able to read it out so that everybody can see it, and then Helen, Moisa, or myself will answer. So you can, if you've heard me, you can type your question and post it in the chat.
Yeah. So there's one question that was during the talk that Helen gave before this query came, and that was whether we can forego the entire academic year. See, academic year can be foregone any time. There's no big deal, but the learning year cannot be lost. So we have to differentiate between the academic year, which is a very, very school oriented, it's a calendar. But can we let go of a year of no learning? No, we cannot do that. We know that every day is a learning opportunity, and we have to keep that learning curve moving upwards. We need to only understand what really learning is, and that has been, we have got a lot of direction from Helen. And of course, there is some things around reading, writing, numbers, and all of those, which have to be planned and offered in a small dose. It is not like a whole day's academic work that needs to be done. So academic year, not of a concern, but learning year, yes, needs to continue.
So I have a few questions. I'll just read them out. The first one is, help me to deal with the stubbornness of a 3-year-old.
Yeah, can I?
Yeah, please.
Yes, please.
See, what you're saying, stubbornness, as I told you, if there is change in the order, actually it's not very easy. As someone said, they're missing teachers, they're missing school. Yes, definitely they're missing. I mean, just because they are missing, just because we also understand that they need to come and meet the teachers and the children, the friends, we can't do. We are not sending them out and, you know, everything is shut down, not because we want to personally do it. This is the need of the hour. Yeah. And if we are not following proper timetable at home, and if there's no order, the child, especially 3-year-old, they go through something called sensitive period for order. You know, if there's something missing in their order, they can become cranky. And that strong sense of wanting to follow order can be translated as stubbornness. Actually, you know, that's all. At least for a 3-year-old, that's how it is. He's not able to understand what's happening, so he's confused. Actually, you know, children that age are all in a confused state. You're not the only one who's worried about this stubbornness. There's so much behavior like that, stubborn behavior, that which we are calling stubborn. It's not that. They're confused. They don't know what's happening. We are saying something, we are doing something, we ourselves are confused. We are also hassled. I mean, it's not an easy situation to handle in every aspect. In every aspect, it's, I mean, you know, whatever, something we want to cook, we are not able to because we don't have all the ingredients, not as if we can't, but for some reason it's not there available. And so we are not able to. And the child is already mentally prepared for it. And if it's not available, the child will go cranky and stubborn and say, no, I want to eat that only. And I'm just giving you an example because you didn't mention what kind of stubbornness. I want to eat, or I want to go out, or I want to meet somebody, or I want to sleep. I don't know what kind of issue ke liye the child becomes stubborn. So it's all because, you know, it's order related, consistency related, structure related. So try and fix that. Maybe it can answer. I mean, maybe you'll be able to arrive at it. So as I told you, first observe why he's doing, for what, then reflect and see what his needs are. Try and support that need, and maybe he'll be happy. I hope I answered that question, and Moiza can fill it up if there's anything more that you have to say.
I think it's a lot to do with the age also, that they want what they want because reasoning is still not established. Yeah. And that goes away with age. I mean, if we work on helping children to accept reasons, that we have the patience to establish reasons in the minds of the child, then stubbornness goes away gradually. Yeah, going to the next question, Surabhi.
So the next question is about sibling rivalry. And what to do if siblings are fighting over each and everything every day. How do you manage that?
From my experience, sibling rivalry happens when you are taking sides without really knowing the story. So what happens is typically, usually the older child is in trouble because the younger child yells and the older child gets the beating. Usually it can be the other way around also. And we really don't know really what transpired. So we judge based on the outcry, you know, the sound that came out of a particular situation, and we judge without really hearing both sides. So it's best that parents do not get into solving or blaming any one particular sibling. It should be like, first calm down and we need to talk about it. It cannot be taking sides, and this taking sides is what leads to sibling rivalry. And it also has deep roots in the early infancy of one of the siblings, of whatever the situation of the family was. If one was neglected for some reason, and then it becomes a much deeper, it's a deep-rooted issue. But usually it is how we enter as police and or as a judge and enter the wrong time and look at the wrong scenario. It's not like how it looks, but we have passed a judgment, and that leads to a rivalry most of the time.
Yeah, to add on a positive note, sibling rivalry is very important. And it is this which will remain in their memory. All of us remember how we fought with our siblings, and that's what binds us together. You know, bonding between siblings is stronger if they have had lots of rivalries in their childhood. And if you can read about it and see, it is important. And yeah, but of course, make sure that there's no physical harm or emotional harm. and they resolve it also all by themselves. You know, their love, the fight, everything is only short-lived, as long as we follow what Moises said. Don't take sides and judge them both of. I mean, as many, all your children, everybody is your child. So how can we take turns? And it's important. Sibling rivalry is important to bring in that bond.
So I'll go ahead to the next question. This is for the school. Have the school bodies have any idea of how long the schools are likely to be shut? Are we talking today, since you anticipate a longer lockdown in the new academic year as well? Are there more online sessions planned?
So school bodies have not been given any guidelines from the government per se. It is only speculation right now, and based on whatever is being spoken about, that the lockdown, you know, every day there's some new element of news coming in. So we are just preparing that in case this happens, then yes, we need to have another strategy. When we are having this meeting, because I think whatever the past month has led to a lot of anxiety among parents, and that's how we want to reach out to parents. And we also now know how we would want to plan in case this lockdown continues and schools do not reopen, then what is our action plan. So online sessions will end by end of this month, by April, and there will be no online sessions for children, but maybe we will design something for parents depending on how the situation evolves and emerges. And online sessions, if they have to resume, they will resume only in June.
So related to this, there's also a question which says, can you address and publish an academic calendar for online instructions?
It's somewhere down. Okay. Yeah, of course we will do that. We will, once we are done with it, as we said, as we spoke along through this talk in my earlier, part, that we have to get it right. We have to plan it right. We cannot do it in a rush, and we cannot undo what already has been, whatever the achievements of the child is already, what they have achieved already. So yes, we will create a plan, we will create an individual plan, and there will be a lot of support that will create for parents to follow up day on day. So we will create that kind of support structure where communication and plan for every day would be shared with parents, and we will take the learning curve gradually upwards for most children.
Right. So the next question is, my child will do anything only if I force him. By himself, he would not like to do something.
So of course, this is again an equation. It's a power equation that you have put yourself in, that force works, because that's how it is not reasoning that has worked, it is force that has worked. But whatever, I'm not saying that parent is right and wrong and the child is right. It's very much possible that the child is not understanding, as being stubborn, or is not cooperating. All of these things can be the reality. But really it is forcing, we know that it doesn't work. Over instruction doesn't work, because after a point, over instruction only becomes noise, background noise, that too, to an extent that even you calling them, you call out their name and they will choose not to respond, because they know it is a conditional thing, that I have to go because I'll be expected, will be expected out of me. So maybe force really doesn't work. You have to let it go, give it some time. There should be some time off now, if that's the equation of not having a relationship of expecting something out of each other in terms of academic work or some outcome. So just go about normalizing things there, and then maybe there'll be a better equation.
So far,
yeah, I think we've addressed everything.
Questions.
Yeah, and also I said, no, if you have a separate timetable for the child, his own timetable, he will not follow. I mean, just now everybody's living at home. I mean, we're all locked down inside the house. All of us should be doing the same things. You want the child to write. So as I said, we should find a time, and especially after lunch, when all the work is done and that's the time we should sit down and we can make our lists. grocery list, or you write down your thoughts. I don't know, you can do any kind of writing. And if the child is below 6 years, it works beautifully by imitation. And so whatever you want your child to do, you sit down and do quietly, and automatically he will do happily, willingly, not by force, on his own. You'll be able to do, because it comes naturally to him wanting to do what others are doing.
So I think we will wait for further updates from the government about how the situation, because no one is in a position to take a decision about how things would be when the government is kind of, is just thinking 1 week, each time to think about what has to be done. So as we've all heard, the lockdown in Telangana will be lifted hopefully on 7th, and then probably further guidelines will come. We have to act and plan as per that. So we also don't want to go on an overdrive right now. We will have more clarity by mid of May, and we will keep updating you with whatever emerges.
So any further questions? So there's a feedback on the talk, which I'll read out since there's no question. So this is for Helen ma'am. Your talk was introspective and quite enriching, and they're saying thank you. Now I see a question. It says, I felt that all other children are doing their worksheet, but my child is not doing and is left behind. But thanks to the school for this session, so they're able to figure out the mistakes that are happening. And yeah, they say they would overcome mistakes rather than pointing out at the child. So that's a feedback. So thank you.
We will plan something more for parents. In May, maybe we'll be working on it. So we will reach out to you again.
So yeah, it also asks for some small interaction sessions with their class teachers. That's one of the
yes,
requests.
We'll work.
Would we see the connectivity issues sorted during the May holidays? Maybe some training also to teachers. Right. So yeah, like we said, it's all very new for us and for teachers, and really connectivity issues, I don't see how we can solve at our end, especially during this lockdown, because nobody's going to come and solve it for us. But we will try our best to, whichever platform we are choosing to connect, we'll try our best that we're able to do it with efficiency.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, more such sessions, like Moiza has already said, we will be planning for a few more sessions for parents. These sessions are intended for us to discuss these things so that we are feeling, as adults, if we are feeling more at ease, like, Helen ma'am said and Moiza has already said, if we are feeling more at ease, we will be able to get through this together with more peacefully, and, have that happy space for ourselves and the children. So definitely we will have a few more sessions. Also based on the request for sessions that have come, we will plan and send a notification to parents.
Sure. So we close it. We have taken everybody's time now, Shrobi.
Yes.
It's more than 2 hours. I mean, almost touching 2 hours.
Yeah,
so we had a lovely time getting, to interact with, not interact really, to get to, see some of the faces and reach out to you. We hope to connect soon again. Till then, all of you take care of yourself, and see you all soon again. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Moiza. Thank you, Helen. Thank you, everybody, for being here. And we'll reach out soon again. Thanks.
Thank you.